lockdown has turned some of us into banana bread baking experts, myself included. And is it only me who's spending way more money on food and electricity than they would usually? There's definitely a lot that can be said about how this pandemic is impacting our lives, but a really good question to be asking is how it's going to impact our relationship with money. Before we actually get into those 5 ideas that I have in terms of how it's going to impact our relationship with money, if you're new here, be sure to hit the subscribe button, give this video a like, and stick around because we talk about all things personal finance and financial freedom. Small businesses are probably one of the hardest hit by this pandemic. They've had to let employees go, and in some cases they've had to close down altogether. And with everything that's happening now, people are starting to value the part that small businesses play in our economy. And with that being said, conscious spending is probably one of the things that's going to be coming up a lot now. Supporting local businesses, supporting small businesses, and just trying to grow the economy as a whole. I definitely see people trying to be a little bit more conscious about where they spend their money and which businesses they actually support. Number 4 on my list has to do with investing, specifically new investors. So a lot of new investors have never actually experienced a market crash, so this actually gives a good opportunity for people to actually measure what their real risk appetite is. A lot of investors may have come in thinking that they can handle high risk because the markets were going up at the time that they were investing, and now when the markets are going down, they're finding themselves panicking and selling off their shares or selling off their investments. So this is definitely going to be revealing exactly what type of investor people are, and it actually may even birth a more conservative group of investors in the future. So moving on to number 3, and this has to do with the way we deal with debt. So it's one thing to be employed and have debt, but it's a very different thing to be unemployed and have debt. Obviously, the second one is a more stressful situation that you can find yourself in. And unfortunately, a lot of people have found themselves in that situation. And there has been a lot of education in terms of credit insurance. For example, if you don't know what credit insurance, check out this video that I did explaining exactly that. But with a lot of people finding themselves unable to service their debt because of the pandemic or because they found themselves unemployed, a lot of light is being shone on debt and what it actually means. So a lot of people will be rethinking whether they want to be going into debt as much as they were previously, and a lot of people might actually be looking into educating themselves more in terms of understanding the types of debt that they get and the type of insurance that they can get with that debt. Moving on to our savings culture. Yes, I know it's not that great because a lot of people found themselves without an emergency fund after they lost their jobs. Seeing the stories that people are sharing around what's happening in their lives because they didn't have an emergency fund, we as society, a lot of people are actually starting to understand why it's so important to have an emergency fund to actually respond in situations like this. So I think a lot of people will be rethinking the way they look at saving and how they actually save and their rate of savings as well. I definitely think that a lot of people will be setting up rainy day funds. I think a lot of people will be thinking about their finances a whole lot more. And my last one, everyone's favorite subject, privilege. I think this whole pandemic has definitely highlighted the divide that is there in society between the rich and the poor, and even between the rich, poor, and the middle class. I definitely think people will be more giving and people will be more empathetic to what people are going through in the situations people find themselves in. So those are just 5 of the things that I think will change in the way that we view and we think about money. How do you think that our views and our perspectives on money are going to change? Let me know down in the comments below. But until I see you on my next video, stay home, stay safe, and sanitize your hands.